Good morning. It is Thursday, the 11th of June. I'm Maeve McMahon and this is Europe Today, Euronews' morning show that brings you all the stories driving the day. Coming up, the countdown is over and today the much anticipated FIFA World Cup kicks off, bringing together some of the world's biggest footballers for a month of matches. We'll be joined by Glennom Mikalleff, the EU Commissioner for Sports, to hear the Brussels view on one of the most political World Cups to date. Meanwhile, Northern Ireland is in the headlines after another night of unrest since a knife attack in Belfast on Monday left a man seriously injured. The suspect, a Sudanese national, has been charged with attempted murder. The incident sparked anti-immigration protests that turned violent, with cars and homes set on fire and police deployed across the city. And the Cypriot presidency is set to unveil its wish list for the EU's long-term budget. Their proposals suggest a 2% reduction to the Commission's €2 trillion spending plan. The goal is to seal a deal by Christmas to avoid debates ahead of 2027, when key elections take place in France, Poland, Spain and Italy. But first, to Luxembourg, where Eurozone finance ministers are gathering on the same day the European Central Bank mulls an increase in interest rates due to higher inflation as a result of the instability in the Middle East. For more, we can now head straight to Luxembourg and bring in our Europe editor, Maria Tadeo, who's joined there by the head of the Eurogroup. Good morning, Maria. Just tell us first what is on the agenda.
Good morning, Maeve. And indeed, there are two important meetings. The Eurogroup is gathering here in Luxembourg, but of course the focus is very much on the European Central Bank, which has now seen increasing interest rates by 25 basis points to 2.25%. Obviously, this is a scenario in which growth for the European economy has been dented because of this war, but also you are seeing this operational for both banks, but also consumer interest rate environment going up. And to debrief, I'm happy to say we're joined by the head of the Eurogroup, Kyriakos Peirakakis, also, of course, Greek finance minister. Sir, the European Central Bank will increase interest rates. That is very much what financial markets are expecting. I know you're not going to comment on the European Central Bank. There's independence, but is that going to make your life more difficult if we see this higher interest rate environment?
Good morning from Luxembourg. Good morning to your viewers. Let me begin by saying that, as you suggested, the European Ministers of Finance do not comment upon monetary policy. We trust the ECB to fulfill its role to anchor inflation expectations, which it must. And at the same time, what we do know is that we should do fiscal policy. We should implement policies that do not contradict monetary policy. We need to have orchestrated policies that optimally support citizens. We know that inflation right now is a challenge. We know that growth is at the same time a challenge. And we're trying to optimally target our policies to protect the most vulnerable, while also investing in our long-term needs, especially with regards to energy and energy infrastructural investments.
And you made a crucial point on this, because the European Central Bank is increasing interest rates, because inflation once again went up in May. A lot of that is driven by energy, but your policy should not make it worse and it should not contradict it. So on the fiscal side of things, how are you going to help households and Europeans with those bills, but at the same time, keeping that inflation pressure lower? How's that?
We know that we should be doing effectively three things at once, which makes the situation even more challenging. On the one hand, you need to support the most vulnerable households that are most in need. Second, you should be fiscally prudent, because we know that the fiscal situation, compared to what it was in 2022, is actually now more challenging. And the third point is that what you do in the long run should fit what you do in the short run. And when we invest in energy, we're effectively investing in the long run sovereignty capabilities and needs of the European Union as a whole. What do we know? We know that the investments that we made since 2022 as Europeans enabled us to feel the crisis, as the IMF calculates, by 12% less compared to what we would have had we not made the requisite investments. So what is the Commission proposing? They are proposing extra fiscal flexibility with regards to investments in energy infrastructure.
And how is that going to play in? Because you know very well your Italian colleague, representing the government of Giorgia Meloni, will say today Italy still wants to see more flexibility in energy. Whatever they spend on energy, they don't want that included in debt and deficit calculations. Is the Eurogroup open to that suggestions? Because the Italians are making it very clear they need help on energy.
Let me make first 2 points. When we had the escape clause for defense, we knew that investments in defense are about Europe's freedom. Investments in energy are about Europe's economic independence. And what do we know? We know that the best social policy is to actually lower energy prices in the long run, not only doing a short-run fix, a quick fix to address the current needs that we have in front of us. So in this regard, what the Commission is proposing, which is some extra flexibility to accommodate for investments in energy, I think constitutes a very targeted and a very fair approach, a very fair proposal, and this is exactly what we're going to be discussing today.
The Italians, however, continue to say it will not be enough. This is a very serious situation. Measures should be implemented now in order to stop a recession. Nonetheless, that recession has not happened. That worst-case scenario of flights who maybe could not even take off over summer has not happened yet. What is your outlook? How do you see this European economy performing in a very difficult scenario, but not in a catastrophic scenario yet?
Well, let me put it this way. Our work is to render Europe more resilient. So in this regard, what do we know? We know that we're not in the worst-case scenario, as you suggested, but we also know that we're not in the best-case scenario. We're in a challenging situation. So what has the Commission proposed? Targeted measures, measures that are temporary, targeted, and tailored in order to support the most vulnerable and those in need. At the same time, what do we know? We know that investments in energy, as I mentioned before, effectively make the European Union, the energy union, more resilient, and at the end of the day, they constitute the most productive and the most effective social policy.
Just quick, but
so we're going to be discussing this today.
But you don't see a recession happening. You don't see a big economic downturn. You think the worst has been avoided?
Well, let me put it this way. We are closely monitoring the situation. We know that the numbers have been adapted. They have been updated. Inflation upwards, growth downwards. Are we in a stagflationary tendency? We are, but we're not in stagflation. So we're going to monitor the situation. The Commission overall is adapting its proposals contextually. So the situation has changed, and this is why the Commission has proposed this extra fiscal flexibility with regards to energy investments. So we're going to monitor, we're going to discuss. There are different viewpoints at the table. I've said this publicly, and we're going to try to do our best.
And just a final minute on this matter. The head of the IMF will also be participating in the talks. The IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, she has said she's in favor of common debt for common European projects. That would be good for Europe. How's that conversation going along? Is that something you can support? More joint borrowing?
Let me put it this way. We already had the IMF join our discussions. I mentioned before this calculation about 12% less impact because of what we did. This is an IMF calculation with regards to energy. I had the privilege of meeting Kristalina Georgieva yesterday with my other hat, that of the Greek Minister of Finance. And if I may make a quick point, I think it's quite symbolic to see my country, Greece, from a country that was a participant in an IMF-led program to now be a contributor of technical know-how for the Southeastern Europe Technical Assistance Center in the region. So the work of the IMF, I think, is quite pertinent to support the work that we as European Ministers of Finance are trying to do. We're going to be discussing all of those issues at the Eurogroup. Obviously, as you know, my work as President of the Eurogroup is to speak about what we all agree upon at the same time. On that very topic, there are different viewpoints, but certainly there isn't an issue that we're not planning to discuss.
Well, Minister, thank you so much. On the head of the Eurogroup, of course, his job is to find consensus, but at this point, Maven, you alluded to this, budget talks will begin. The conversation about Eurobonds certainly has not died. It's a difficult job to find consensus on this matter.
It is indeed, Maria Tadeo. Thank you so much for that live broadcast there from Luxembourg, and of course to your guest, the head of the Eurogroup. But now moving on, today is the 11th of June, which means the World Cup begins. It's the most exciting day of the year if you're an avid football fan. The 2026 World Cup, which is the largest World Cup to date, will kick off with historic ceremonies across the host countries, the US, Canada and Mexico. Today, one of the hosts, Mexico, will be facing South Africa in Mexico City, and then South Korea taking on Czechia in Guadalajara in Mexico. The excitement, of course, is palpable. But this year, the high spirits could be marred by geopolitics, immigration enforcement and the Trump administration's travel bans. For the view from Brussels, we can bring in now the EU Commissioner for Sports, Glennom Mikallefom. Good morning.
Good morning, Niamh.
Great to have you with us. I know you're a big football fan.
I am a huge football fan.
And I know you're actually not too bad at football as well. We have some pictures there we can play of you showing off your football skills there. Did you ever dream of being a professional football player?
I actually played football when I was younger. So ever since I could walk, I always remember myself, carrying my football around.
So how are you feeling then today? Could you even sleep last night over the World Cup?
I cannot wait for the kickoff later on today. So I've been, for the past few months, immersing myself. I have World Cup fever at the moment. So.
You have World Cup fever. And does the Burley Monsoon, does the European Commission, what's the vibe like there?
I know there are a couple of people in the corridors of the Bergamo who are also really keen on what's happening and following the developments of their favourite football teams. So.
And will you even stay up late to watch some of the games?
I will try to watch all of the games. So there are 16 European teams that are participating. I'm really looking forward to watching all their matches, but all other matches as well, because this is one of the biggest sporting events on the planet, along with the Olympic Games.
Who are you up for? Who's going to take it home?
My prediction would be two teams, either Spain or France, but I think Spain will win it at the end.
Well, you've got football fever, and of course everyone's talking about the games, from TikTok influencers to schoolgoers who are swapping football stickers, because last time 1.5 billion of us tuned in for the final. And now for the view from the EU quarter here on who could take home the cup, Euronews' Adlan Lial went out with the Euronews mic.
The biggest ever World Cup starts today. For the first time, 3 different countries will host the event. A record number of 104 games will be played, and the number of participants has been extended to 48. Here in Brussels, not only Europe's capital, but also one of the most international cities in the world, people will surely be watching closely. But who do they think is going to win and why? Let's find out.
I want England to win the World Cup because after 60 years of hurt, now it's finally time for football to come home. But who's going to win the World Cup? Probably France. What can I say?
I think Belgium is going to win because they deserve it.
Abbiamo degli allenatori italiani.
We have Italian coaches abroad. Ancelotti is coaching Brazil, Cannavaro is coaching Uzbekistan, and Montella is with Turkey. We can take comfort in their successes.
I loro eventuali successi.
I think Portugal will win the World Cup because of Cristiano Ronaldo's last tournament.
Creio que é o Brasil.
I believe Brazil because I'm Brazilian. Even living in Europe, I believe it's Brazil. Not because I believe we're the best. We will only know at the end.
No final.
I want that Mexico wins because of Orbelín Pineda. But I think Spain or France, they will win it.
Back-to-back for Messi, Argentina, and we also support Willy Semedo and Cape Verde.
I would love Scotland to win it, so after 20 years it's their first time back, and I think either France or Spain can win it.
At the end of the day, I want my country to win the World Cup, so Islamic Republic of Iran, always.
I want Uzbekistan to win.
Who I think should win is Ghana, but who I think will win, Brazil or France.
So many there reckon France will take it home, and of course the bookies are saying it's between France and Spain.
Some bold predictions there, huh?
We'll have to wait and see, because of course football is meant to unite, Commissioner. But this year thousands cannot go. They're left out due to travel bans, visa restrictions. L'Equipe here, a French daily, kind of captured the mood this year, the kind of vibe that's overshadowing a lot of the headlines. How will these games bring the world together if so many people are left out?
Well, for starters, I hope that this World Cup will be remembered for pure football excitement, for the joy and passion it brings on the pitch, but also for millions of fans around the world who, in times like these, come together in squares, in bars, in cafes to watch their favorite teams. Of course, it's about accessibility. These decisions on who has access are for the host country also to take decisions on. But I hope that this will be one of the World Cups that's remembered for football excitement and for the joy it brings.
Because the reality is that is not the case. We've seen one top African referee, a Somali national, he cannot enter the US, he cannot participate. And these are the headlines that are overshadowing and kind of dampening the mood this year.
Well, of course, you always have around big sporting events, whatever they are, controversies. And these are, of course, issues that merit attention. But my hope is that for the time being, we focus on sport, on football, and on the joy it brings.
And what about Iran? We saw some lady there, she was expressing her hope that Iran would win. But we've seen many Iranian Americans out on the streets as well, telling FIFA they should have cancelled Iran's participation due to the ongoing war, because the Iranians are using their players to try to make themselves look good on the world stage. What's your view here?
Well, it's good that finally there is a solution and the Iranian national team can participate in the tournament. I think the Iranian team qualified and on merit, they should participate. So I think it's good that finally they can be on the pitch and show the world what football is about, which is bringing people together and bringing countries together.
Bringing people together, of course. And it's the topic that we dived into as well this week on The Ring. That is Euronews' debating show. We asked, did Donald Trump perhaps, kill the vibe a little bit this year? We've seen ticket sales and hotel bookings are below expectations, especially in the United States. We can take a listen now to two MEPs that were debating in the European Parliament this week. The Austrian MEP Lucas Mandl and Rasmus Andersons from the Greens.
Dear colleague, you have advocated for boycotting the World Cup. I don't agree with that. I think the excitement about football is much bigger than politics can ever be. And the direct question would be, how would you explain to, let's say, a child excited about football, just interested into football and this exciting game, how would you explain to such a child to boycott the game?
I did not advocate to boycott the tournament, especially not for supporters. But what I think politicians should do is to take a clear stance and to criticize both the FIFA but also the current US administration on the mistakes they are making when it also comes to organizing sports. And there I think that politicians have a different kind of responsibility, meaning that they should not travel there and be part of the tournament and green light both the actions of the FIFA and of the US president. So for me, it's not a general boycott, but I think as politicians, we should not go there and support.
A glimpse of The Ring there that you can catch the rest of course, on Euronews. What's your view here? What would you say to a kid?
Well, first of all, I don't think boycotts will solve anything in this respect. I think we should not deprive fans of the opportunities to follow their favorite teams. This is, I think, one of the moments where people can come together. This being said, I think, of course, football should be accessible to everyone. And I'm quite happy to see politicians around the world organizing and making spaces available for people to come and watch their favorite teams. And this is also an opportunity to highlight that here in Europe there are governing bodies in sports like UEFA, who has a fan-first policy, which makes these games, these sporting events, accessible to people. And that's the kind of sport that I want to see.
Well, you mentioned UEFA just on the Champions League we saw a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, the games were dampened by the violence that broke out in Paris. What's your responsibility here as the EU Commissioner for Sport to try and improve the situation?
Well, of course, sporting events have to be safe, but this also involves a lot of coordination between the hosts, in this case, the countries which would be hosting these games, and the bodies which are organizing them. So there needs to be a lot of coordination in this respect to make these sporting events as safe as possible.
OK, Commissioner Glennom Micalleff, thank you so much for coming into us this morning on this very exciting day as that World Cup gets underway. But as we've been discussing, the headlines about this year's World Cup have focused less on football and more on issues like exploding ticket prices, fan boycotts, security and visa bans, etc. Our Jakob Janis takes a closer look at the long list.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino must love the view from Trump Tower. He runs a Manhattan office there, wears MAGA ties, and is called by Donald Trump the king of soccer.
I call it soccer. It's just easier to do because we have football and they have two footballs, right? They call it football.
But while the football elite rub shoulders in Washington, the game is hitting a metaphorical and physical wall at the US border. You see, the international teams, referees and everyday fans find it a bit difficult to see the games which start today. What is going on there? FIFA expects to pocket more than $3 billion from ticket sales and hospitality alone. But corporate pricing has broken the marketplace. Ticket packages to follow a team to the final are now estimated to cost 5 times more than 4 years ago. On top of that, nearly 180,000 tickets are flooding the official resale market, and median resale prices have plunged by 20% in a single month. But the biggest bust is happening at the border security checkpoints. Infantino's sports diplomacy means nothing to US immigration officers, enforcing hard travel bans against 4 qualified nations, including Iran and Somalia. And US border agents just locked Somalia's top referee in a cell for 11 hours before throwing him out of the country. Iraq's star striker was detained in Chicago for 7 hours, And currently the Iranian squad is stranded, training across the border in Tijuana because Washington refused visas to 15 members of their staff, including the head of the Football Federation. So it looks like the very definition of a global sporting event is being rewritten before our own eyes. The opening week proves that football does not unite the world. It is national borders and strict immigration laws that are defining who gets to play and who stays at home. So can FIFA hold this World Cup together? Tune in on tonight to find out, as Mexico opens the tournament playing against South Africa. Oh, and remember, Euronews will be covering the games, and the whole political sideshow surrounding them for you.
There you go, Euronews.com. That is your source to find out all about the games. You can also write to us here at Europe Today at Euronews.com to tell us what you think of this year's World Cup 2026. But that does bring this edition of Europe Today to an end. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, take care and see you soon here on Euronews.